What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracey, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Grit. And it's about the grit, isn't it? Over the weekend, everybody knows I'm a Lions fan. It's a couple weeks out now, so this is something that everybody's already seen. But if you watch that Lions game on Sunday, we watched as Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions, and the Lions are getting pummeled, and like all Lions Nation was like, what's happening here? And one of my friends actually, Robert Pierce, shout out to Rob, texted me at halftime and was like, you know what? They deserve to have a bad game, or they're allowed to have a bad game, is what he said. And for some reason, that just really rubbed me wrong. I was like, yeah, I guess. I mean, if you want to be a good team, if they lose this game, if they get their ass kicked, all that kind of stuff, like, you know what? Everybody's allowed to have a bad day. We're allowed to have a bad game, all that kind of stuff. But their goal is to be the best. Their goal is to win the Super Bowl. Their goal is to be the most dominant team in football. And I know that from their coaches, from their culture, from their players. And it's the same like when you're an entrepreneur, when you're out there making a difference in life, it's the same thing. We're all allowed a bad day, and we can have a bad day, and we learn so much from that. But we get the practice, right? And so I didn't really worry. I was like, okay, they might not win this game, but I have a feeling that second half comes around, they're going to come back. And man, you know what? It's that mentality. It's that grit. It's the next man up. It's you know what? When life is kicking us and we're throwing 5 interceptions, we're not getting down on ourselves, right? Jared Goff didn't lose his confidence. He was still slinging the ball down the field. And you don't ever see, I think this is the 10th time that a Lions quarterback has thrown 5 interceptions in a game. It's the only Lions quarterback that's thrown 5 interceptions in the game and still won the game. Because you don't win the game when you make that many mistakes, because most of the time you get in your head and now you're afraid to make a mistake. And what I saw is that the practice, that all the time they put into perfecting their craft, out not inside the game, but before the game, they were prepared to come back in the team was built for this. So super cool to see, but it's again, what are we doing in our off time to practice, to get on the field? That's one of the things that me and my partner Denise Roberts have put together with objection handling boot camp. And I just want to talk about it for a second, because we talked about this message the other day, that when do you get on the field and you're able to practice as an entrepreneur? When are you able to go through your spiels and practice your stuff and just get out of your head all that stuff that you're like, oh, is that stupid? Or are they going to think it's stupid? Are they going to kick me in the teeth? Like, how do you get into that, and how do you do it unless you're practicing on real life prospects? That's what we've put together with the objection handling boot camp. Is it gives you that thing, just like the Lions have, to be able to practice perfection, so that when you get in the game, when you're talking to your clients, when you're doing those things to generate business and build relationships, you're not fumbling all over yourself. So it's all about that. How are we practicing? And I want to say again, super excited for this episode. I got a chance to know Bentley a couple of years ago and got to work with him a little bit as he was building his business. And it's so cool. We got to catch up a few weeks ago, and it's so cool to see where he's at in his business now. And super excited to talk to him about it and the grit that it takes to build a business building. So Bentley, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Jason. Back to that Lions, lots of lessons to be had. You said you weren't really worried at halftime, and I wasn't either. But in the years past, I probably would have turned the TV off. It was late,
Yep.
But being prepared, expecting adversity, and just dealing with it with a level head. Trust the work that you've done to put in. Rely on the process. You practice long enough, you got this, So yeah. No, it's great to be here. And yes, we caught up recently, and things are a lot different than they were.
And I love seeing that.
Ago. Yeah. Oh, I love it too.
I can see the sparkle in your eyes, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, because it was a lot of uncertainty back then, and things are better now, for sure.
Well, that's the thing. And, even kicking off and talking about like Jared Goff throwing 5 interceptions as entrepreneurs, there's things that we're down in the game 23-7 and it looks like there's no hope. But to see someone like yourself, I know you can resonate with that grit because you didn't just say, this is the end, I'm not, When we were
Can't.
talking the other day, you're like, there's no other option, right?
Whatever it takes, basically. You got to do whatever it takes. And there's no, the alternative is awful. It's I worked too hard to go back working for someone else and all that, So
let's talk a little bit. For one, what is your company now and what do you do?
Renovations. We do everything from kitchens to baths, basements, even smaller stuff, custom woodwork. I'm the president of the company. And at this point, we've got, I work closely with a planner and a designer. I've got, demo team, tile guy. I got everyone if I need them. Just depends on the job. Every job's a little different. And depends on where I'm working, if it's here or Plymouth or Farmington. So yeah, business is good. I can't complain. I'm lucky. I feel like I've got really good clients, and my clients, I do a lot of referrals. So did a job last winter. He told his friend, she told her sister. It was a month's worth of work right there with no advertising.
That's the absolute best way to build a business is from referrals. Because one, obviously you're doing a great job for somebody to go out there and then tell a friend or family member. But when you get that referral, and I don't know if you notice that when you get a referral, it's like you don't have to prove yourself or you don't have to.
It's great.
The walls are down, right? They trust you.
Yep. And it kind of goes both ways because, it's kind of like we've both been verified or pre-qualified, if you will.
Yeah.
And I know that my client he's not just going to recommend me if I did a crappy job. So I understand that he's, to a certain extent, going out on a limb. I don't want to let him down. I want more referrals from him or her.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the best way. And that's kind of how it all started for me. Just back when I was doing the handyman business, the jobs were smaller, so it was a little easier to get referrals and it was easier to get commitments because it wasn't such a financial ask, if you will. But that's how it all started.
So let's go back into that a little bit in like your history because you talked about at the beginning, like, the alternative and not wanting to go back to a job. So before you started your business, what were you doing? What did life look like?
Well, I guess I can go way back. I left LSU to go to culinary school, the Culinary Institute of Louisiana. And then that kicked off years long of me being a chef. Moved out to Colorado, catering. I was a private chef, you name it, that type of thing. I liked the creativity a lot. I liked being able to have freedom to make whatever I wanted. I didn't like anything else about that line of work, though. I was not a fan of the hours. It didn't seem to pay very well.
Yeah.
And so what had happened was I got the guitarist in my band at the time he was a high-end painter, and I started working with him during the days, private chef at night. And through him, I met a carpenter. That guy actually gave me my first table saw. It was all janky, but I loved that thing. I used it for years. It made me a lot of money. And it slowly evolved to where the chef thing was kind of not as important. And the construction thing was becoming the 8 to 5 type deal. And I tried to open up my own business back in Colorado years ago. And I kind of didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Cut to, moved here, was working for a guy, painting, some minor carpentry stuff. And I tore my rotator cuff. And there was also some other stuff. So I basically had a surgery, and there was like 4 things: bone spurs. My bicep tendon had to get reattached. And the rotator was just minimal. Anyway, where I'm going with that is I was down and out. I couldn't work for like weeks or months. And in that time, I felt bad because, when I was working, I would have to leave early to take the kids to soccer or whatever. Now I can't even work. I feel like I'm letting my boss down. So I kind of just rethought what I want to do. I was like, I need to work for myself. I'm capable. So I started the handyman business because I figured I can get into a lot of people's homes a lot. And then, if it's just a a minor plumbing issue, once I'm there, who knows what'll happen.
Yeah.
But at least I'll have the option. I'll have my foot in the door.
Yep.
And so, and as you know, you kind of have to bite off more than you can chew at first. I still feel like I'm doing that to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But certainly was back then. And it worked. I got into a lot of people's homes and met a lot of clients. Again, there wasn't such a financial ask for them because it was just a lot of it was just minor stuff. But for an example, I remember going on and this was a referral. So this was another client. She sold a condo or something. I went to the new lady's condo just for like a little drywall patch, like literally like a $75. I have nothing going on. I think it was during COVID or something, you know, and it turned into $9,300 job and a $700 tip, So I was like, okay, now I can invest a little, replace my trailer. And then just slowly but surely, I started to not like having to take my trailer to 5 places a day. I found that when I do these renovations, I can just set up shop for a few weeks.
Yep.
And the before and after, it's more dramatic. But at that time, people didn't really want to spend 30 grand on a bathroom from a handyman. So that's when I rebranded. I kept the logo and changed it to HH Renovations. And since then, like I said, I linked up with a good team. And I'm really fortunate. We all work together. We all give each other work. So it's
collaboration at its finest.
It's really great. It's really great. And because sometimes I might just be at work all day for like a week straight with no one.
Yeah.
Maybe the homeowner's there, but maybe I'm by myself listening to podcasts, And so like this last week, I got to work with my tile guy for a couple of days and like have conversation. We talk about the trades.
Yeah.
Pitfalls. We have all the same problems, And I love it. I feed off of that. And I think the other team members do as well. Yeah.
It's huge when you have that, again, that camaraderie. And like you said, it's like they're all going through the same things.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. And it took some time, because now we've been working together, the same crew for a bit. And it takes a little bit of time to understand where they're coming from. And, but yeah, it's great because through them, I've met other trades, referrals from jobs. It's really good.
Going back in and like talking about the handyman business, and I loved how we talked about this a couple of years ago, how going in and getting that foot in the door, but then when you're inside, it's being able to find, to one, build the relationship, and two, find other ways that you can serve them, right, and take care of them and help them out. And that's how it landed that bigger job out of what did you say that one job was at the beginning? $70?
$75.
$75. What was that? What was the thinking? How did you have that mindset to know, like, because some people are like, I want to go right straight for the big deal. I'm not trying to manage some little stuff. You're like, you had the mindset of knowing I'm going to go in for the little stuff, but I'm going to make this a bigger deal.
Yeah, well, there's a couple things. Unfortunately, nowadays, I feel like you have to know a lot of the trades. You don't have to be a pro, the best at all of them, but you have to have a solid understanding for a good portion of them. But I'm also pretty personable, and so I know that once I'm talking to someone, I can articulate myself, I can express myself accurately, and people tend to trust me, especially if I do what I say I'm going to do at first.
Yeah.
And I always do what I say I'm going to do, and that's kind of how that one happened. That combined with the whole, you got to do whatever it takes. There's a lot riding on it, obviously. And so I think I knew better. I didn't have the capital to just take out start off as being Brighton carpenter, or Brighton construction or whatever. And so I knew it was going to be like a slow grind, but it worked out fine because I was basically a one-man show anyway. So,
yeah.
And I remember at first it was just like, okay, the goal was just to be able to keep running my own business and not have to work for anyone. That was the only goal, Where am I going to work next week? And then it was, where am I going to work next month? And now it's months out, So now I can sleep at night.
Yeah. Because what does that create when you're looking at that and you're trying to eat today?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I worried a lot. And I just focus. I'm like, all right, well, I have to do whatever it takes. Maybe I won't make a lot on this one, but if they tell someone, maybe I can make a little more on that one, and so on and so forth. And I had some luck involved, but also had some bad luck too, and a lot of doing things for the first time and trying to really make it work. A lot of that.
Yep. Well, they say so the definition of luck is when preparation and opportunity meet, right? And so it's like the luck is like your preparation, you're putting in the work, it's then the opportunity meets, but like the unlucky is like you're trying to figure it out. Like it's probable that it's probably not going to work out, and you're gonna have those learning lessons along the way.
Lots of them. I've probably erased a lot of those out of my memory subconsciously.
It's like birthing, you forget.
If I focus on those, I'll suffer from imposter syndrome even more than I already do,
Yeah.
So,
but what's awesome about that is, and again, I think every entrepreneur is that level of grit. It's that Jared Goff throwing 5 interceptions and just like the mind of a goldfish of like, I'm just going back out there. And even hearing him in the interviews afterwards, he's like, they weren't that bad. Like the one throw, okay, but the rest of them were just kind of bad luck and, whatever it is. And he wrote it off. And, as entrepreneurs, again, we're handed that stuff and it can get easy to get in our heads and have that imposter syndrome because we're making these mistakes.
Oh, yeah. You can become paralyzed, or I should say I have become paralyzed by this job didn't go so well. Now this person wants the same type of work done, and then I like freeze and, I don't do that anymore, but that's just because I'm a little more prepared now and understand what's on the horizon. But yeah, you gotta just put your head down and know your strengths, understand your weaknesses for sure. That's helped me out a lot. That's why I have people that I can trust to do things I either don't want to do or I'm not as good, But grit for sure. If you don't have the attitude of what it takes, of doing whatever it takes, you're not going to make it,
Yeah.
I know a guy and he's been on the fence about trying to start his own business. He kind of had the same background. He kind of did the same thing I was doing, but he wants to be assured that it's going to work. And this guy really is only kind of knows the one trade. And I tried to tell him, like, look, if I could do it, you could do it. But there's going to be uncertainty galore. And yeah, you will lose sleep at night. And he keeps shying away and going back to, his safety net, which is 9 to 5 working for the guy.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But
I think the people listening to this show, you and I, we identify, and you said it right out of the gates in the episode of like, it's better than the alternative. The alternative is going back and working for somebody else, right? And that keeps us going to where, yeah, we have sleepless nights, but I wouldn't trade this in for the world.
No way.
There's stress and there's the uncertainty in all of it, and there's things that we can't control that come along. Like a COVID, all of a sudden, for me, I had 5 clients that their businesses were shut down when COVID happened. And it was like, how do you survive that? But you do. You figure it out because it's better than the alternative.
It's way better than the alternative. I mean, that alternative we speak of is frightening to me. Like the amount of freedom I have.
Yeah.
On just every day. I wasn't going to say not Monday through Friday, but really I can, like today, for instance, I just took the day off.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm working, like I'm doing business stuff, but I'm not actually swinging a hammer or building doors, which is what I would have been doing.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So that freedom, and that was kind of a driving force. Cause like I said, I had 3 kids half the time, trying to leave work early and seeing the disappointment on my boss's face when I got to take him to soccer.
Yeah.
But he has kids too. I got to go to soccer. So, right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. But it's going back and like, what do you want? And I think a lot of times, I know for me as an entrepreneur, I looked at it. We talked about this the other day of like, I want to be able to end my day and go coach my kids' sports, you know, when that was an option. And so those years I was out of work by 4:30, so I could go coaches sports, or, you know, track or basketball season, their games start at early, you know, and so I end my day at that time, you know, so like having a family and not being able to have the boss is disappointed because the boss is you.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's, and now my kids, certainly my boys, certainly my oldest, he kind of sees the freedom I have, and I've taken him to work with me a few times. And if all goes well, hopefully he will continue to work for me. But where I was going with that is I try to instill in them the value of, you know, start young, like don't wait as long as I did, because you can have a good life. So have that entrepreneurial mindset early on. Like be thinking about it now. Be thinking about what can you do to side hustle right now or something along those lines. And he gets it. My oldest gets it. Yeah, and it's exciting.
That's awesome to see.
It really is. It really is. And the truth is, yeah, he all of them, they could, I mean, I want them to do whatever they want to do, but you know, it's not like the old days where college is the only route. And so I just try to tell them, you know, until you find out what you want to do, you got this. So it's if nothing else, it's a good skill to have.
5,000%. If you can build a home, if you can do projects in the home, no matter what you're doing for the rest of your life, you're able to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's me. So we were talking about, and you're talking about the only thing you loved, as far as being a chef, is like that creativity. What is it about the construction and building homes and doing this, building kitchens and stuff? What is it that you love?
A couple things. I like a good challenge. Because there were times when I was told that I was not going to be able to pull this off. And so, first off,
here you are, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And, but it is kind of creative. Like, you know, whether it's custom woodwork or just, you know, like I said, building some doors and trim or whatever the case is, there is a little bit of creativity. Now I work with a designer. She's really the creative one. She has a vision that I just don't have, which is fine. Goes back to the strengths and weaknesses thing. But in regards to the chef deal, a little secret, making food taste good is really easy. It's like so much easier than people think. So, but to be a chef, you gotta be able to do a lot more than that. And running a crew in the back of the house, that's one thing. But like the numbers and the food costs, that's just not my deal. Eyes would glaze over. I'm like, just let me make something that the customer wants, you know? That was a pretty good feeling. So yeah, there are some similarities, and that's also a skill that I don't regret having, you know, because I cook basically every night, you know?
Yeah.
And my kids have refined palates because of that, you know, whether it's good or bad. You know?
That's a skill again that you can take anywhere for the rest of your life.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. A while back I said, you know, I wish I would have started the carpentry thing earlier. But the reality is I don't really regret leaving LSU to go to culinary school. don't really regret it because it is something that it is a skill, you know, and I didn't take the path that a lot of people take. You know, I have some friends where they've had like 2 jobs their whole life. I did the math, and the amount of jobs I had, it's almost embarrassing. Like I was all over the place, you know?
Yeah.
But not just restaurant, because in the restaurant work, people kind of float around more so than other stuff. But I had a stint in the oil field to chase some money, you know, and silly jobs when I was younger.
Yep.
So
I think that would probably be something that's common for entrepreneurs in the job, like their job experiences that they've had a lot of them, because it's, again, we're here for a reason. You're running your own business for a reason, and it's like finding someone that you're passionate about working with or for.
I think you're right. Yeah, I don't know if I ever made that correlation, but now that I'm thinking about, I guess, like popular entrepreneurs, yeah, they kind of were all over the place and certainly failed a lot. And didn't take the safe route.
We're told they're going to fail or they can't make it in a certain way, you know. And like what you said is like, you know, going back and beating yourself up. We beat ourselves up like, oh, I've had all these jobs, you know, like I must not be good, or I must be like a job. You start to have these negative connotations towards it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just all sucked. You know, like I had to find what I was really, really passionate about.
Very true. Very true.
And it wasn't somebody else's company.
Right. And the fact is, sometimes that may take a while.
5,000%. And that's what in talking and feeding right back into that conversation of like not having the regrets. Like I look at, there's a lot of stuff that I feel like I maybe wasted time at, but I really didn't. I didn't really, because I got to where I'm at now because of those experiences. And even thinking about being in culinary, would you be where you're at now if you weren't there? Because there's a buddy that you met that led you down this path doing the culinary work or doing a chef work that led you to where you're at now. And so do we meet the people? Like we think about our past, and they're not necessarily linear.
It's just crazy to think about the path and the people that I met at just the right time, you know. I was thinking about this. This is kind of not really related, but when I was living in Denver, and I wasn't married yet, but we were renting this house, and my landlord, he was like, "Hey, I'm selling a house up north of here. It'd be a good place for your first house." So that's a landlord recommending that. So I'm like, okay, let's go take a look. And we pulled up, and it was comical how hideous this was. The worst house on the block. It wasn't a good neighborhood. And
it was the worst house in a block in a bad neighborhood.
This was a neighborhood, no joke, that like 15 years prior, there was like gang shootings and stuff in North Denver. But I was like, well, so what? We can fix this up. Paint it, we'll do whatever. At least we'll have a house.
Yeah.
You know? And going back to the whole, had he not brought that up, because now that house just sold for over $600,000. Okay. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. And the worst part is, it looks worse than when I left it, which was only like 9 or 10 years ago. Because I know this because my buddy lives in the neighborhood, and he fills me in, sends me pictures. But had my landlord never told us about that, you know, we wouldn't have had. Let's just say I was really lucky.
Yeah.
You know, because I made some great memories. It was right by the park. Right, you could hear the lions roar from my backyard. You know,
from the
elephants from the Denver Zoo right there. Yeah. So yeah, I think the path, it was not something I could have foreseen.
Yeah.
But I am really thankful for the people and for the way it worked out. It was bumpy, but it's less bumpy now.
That's exactly, and then I think as being an entrepreneur, and when we've been in tough situations throughout our life, I think that's another thing that prepares us in our experiences, because we talk about it's an up and down ride, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's days where it's like, this is really tough. But if we've already experienced that in life, again, it's better than the alternative, and like, so we can keep on going. There's a lot of people that get in business and it's not for them. They didn't make it. Maybe even like, there's a lot of people that are hesitant and they want to know it's a for sure thing. Your buddy, for example, might not necessarily be destined to be a business owner, because if they get started in it and they get adversity, it's easy to quit.
Easy to quit. Yeah, for sure. And I think I did that way back when I think I was trying to start up a small painting company, but I was still kind of cooking at night, and it was hard to. Granted, I didn't really know what I was doing, but it was hard to commit when that uncertainty is unbearable, and you're just in reactive mode. Yeah, it's scary. But if you do have to believe, at the end of the day, if that's what you want.
If that's what you want. Exactly.
Yeah. And you're right. It's not meant for everyone.
It's not meant for everybody. And I think that the people that really want it, you find a way to drive to do it. And then there are people that, and I say that everybody that fails didn't really want it, but there are some people that that their view of their world or their story is a little bit different.
Oh, yes. And then what happens along the way is you meet people who are kind of doing the same thing, and you hear about their hustle and their struggle, and then it's inspiring. I'm like, well, he's doing that. Well, I gotta ramp it up a little.
Yeah.
But in a good way, not just a competitive way, but just like, all right, yeah, I thought I was hungry, So then once that's happening, then it's your path comes a little clearer. You know that it's okay. I can do this.
You know what's possible when you see somebody else can do it. It's even like you telling your friend, like, I can do it. I could figure it out. I know you can.
Yeah, for sure. And I do remember people not believing that it was doable. I have a story. When I was in college, I remember this girl, I was told her my schedule. She was like, you're never going to be able to take all those classes. And I was not good at college, okay? I wasn't there long. And I just remember by her saying that, I'm like, it's on.
It's on.
It's 100% on. I am going to do it. I'm not going to drop out of any of these classes, and I'll have the last laugh. And so I think when I do hear no, then I think, all right. We'll see about that. I heard something really, really inspiring. I don't know if you're a Lance Armstrong guy.
Yeah.
But he tells himself every morning that everyone's going to say yes. And I tell you what, I started employing that, especially on Monday mornings,
Yep.
And it helps, man.
Yeah.
It really does. And not everyone's going to say yes, especially on Mondays. Mondays are the worst. I hear no. This past Monday, it's like, so much stuff I didn't foresee, so I was kind of on my heels all day. But I like that type of thing, that attitude.
And again, we have to have that certain mindset and in that mentality, because we are going to get beaten down, and there are going to be those unforeseen things, and you're kind of on your heels.
Yeah. Yeah, it just comes down to attitude, right? Your outlook.
Absolutely.
And employing other things that enable me to attack life more so. Like you work out, like working out's a huge one.
Yep.
I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have that.
When did that come into your life?
So long ago. Yeah, my dad, he worked shift work making PVC, but he was affiliated with the YMCA. I think he volunteered there.
Okay.
So I remember going there in the late 80s, and they had a little tiny weight room that was barely bigger than this room. Just one machine, like a cables, the lat pull down, and leg press.
Yeah.
And I liked it. And so then by the time high school rolled around, I took a weightlifting class. And then it was on. I'm pretty sure by like my... Oh, and I could work out at the Y for free because of my dad for a little while till they caught on that the card I was showing them was him, not me. But I'd say probably like junior year, sophomore, junior year, that was just my thing. I just enjoyed it. I remember like going, I was like, I can go to the gym, and then when I leave, I feel bigger. Like my arms look bigger visibly, you know. And I was like, why is not everyone's doing this, you know? Crazy, right? And then, got married and had kids, and then I kind of wasn't taking care of myself again. Then I found CrossFit, and the community aspect of that really took it to the next level because I didn't have to think about the workouts. I just show up, you know.
You're in the community, you get assigned, you know what you're doing.
Yeah, they have you don't have to think because that can get, let's just say that when there's a community there, when there's 15 other people, you're going to go harder, you know? And by the way, this community, these community members, these friends, you work out with them basically like all the time, almost daily. So you know them. You get competitive. You're like, oh, he's doing it in 12 minutes. I'm going to do it in 11, you know?
Yep.
And I can't really compete anymore like that with the young guys at all. It resulted in a couple shoulder surgeries. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing for me. And I've taken, I think all of my kids have done it at some point. A couple of them did a CrossFit Kids class. And then now I'll take my middle child every now and again to open gym or classes on the weekend. And I can see it in his eyes, like he doesn't want to go.
Yeah.
He never really wants to go. He'll say like, I want to work out tomorrow, but I'm not going to want to go. Okay, that'll be the text.
Yep.
But he recognizes that when it's over and he's walking out and he's sweating and he feels invigorated, like he associates that with, all right, I didn't want to do this, but I had to do it. Now I feel good, or I feel better. And so I think what I was getting at with that whole spiel was that, you know, starting the day off, the workout, like clears my mind. I can think a little more logically, not get caught up in the minor details. Yeah.
I know for me, it's that way, and it relieves stress. And I work out in the morning as well. I think, you know, starting off the day, having that time by myself. It's funny, I'm the most social person in the world. If you see me in the gym, I'm with my headphones, and I don't really talk to anybody unless they approach me, because I just go in and get my work done, and then I have stuff I have to do afterwards, right? Or it's starting work,
right?
But getting that out of the way, that one, the discipline to stay with that. What is that, you know, how does that carry over the rest of the day?
Oh yeah.
The
Everything.
energy you have, you know, to be able to carry out the day. How does that carry over?
Yeah. I mean, I'm 50, you know, and my body, like everything gets heavier every year, you know, the ladders get colder, the sheets of MDF get way heavier. And, so I feel like I'm having to do what I can just to kind of stay where I'm at.
Yeah.
Because if I just resign to going to work and going home, oh man, that's the beginning of the end, in my opinion. But yeah, you said it, discipline. That's a huge one because you can't really fake that. You know, if someone looks like they take care of themselves and they're disciplined enough to do it consistently over the course of years, and nutrition, well, that says a lot about that person. And I think that's, well, like I said, you can't buy it, you can't fake it. You either have it or you don't.
It's a great billboard in that sense, because again, I see that carrying over into the work. If you're disciplined in this area, you're probably disciplined throughout the other areas in your life as well. And And I love this, doing what others won't now, so you can do what others can't later.
That's a great one.
They look at like, I don't know what your parents look like at 50, but like I'm 45, like I'll put us in any competition, like with any kids.
It's crazy. I was watching some old TV show, and the character was younger than I am now, and he looked like what I consider to be a 60-something-year-old man back in the day.
Yep.
So yeah, and granted, we know more about nutrition now, and there's just a lot. It's just different. You have all this information at our fingertips. I remember I bought this book. It was called Bodybuilding, and this thing was probably 3 inches thick, okay? And I wore it out. Till pages were falling out. And it was pretty basic. And the section on nutrition, first off, there wasn't a big section. It was only like a few pages.
Yeah.
But it was wrong. Like everything they were saying to eat was like, they were talking about like eating dry wheat toast and baked potatoes and stuff. There was no mention of like the focus on protein necessarily.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was like dry chicken breast, but we just know a little more, and the information's it's out there for everything, really, not just that, but
we can learn how to do anything.
Pretty much. With a little elbow grease, you can.
So going into a home kitchen, what's one of your favorite jobs you've done recently?
I'm gonna say last winter we did a really, well, first off, the bathroom was huge. So, and we moved walls and plumbing, and the change was dramatic. And we brought in all hands on deck. So my tile guy did this beautiful mosaic, I don't know, waterfall, I guess you'd call it. My designer would probably say I'm not saying that right, but she came up with the design, and this bathroom was pretty spectacular. And I want to say it was about 4 or 5 weeks over the dead of winter, which also made it better, because I remember a time when I never even had work in the dead of winter for construction. I'd go weeks without just, okay.
Yeah, what's happening? The worst time, too.
The worst time. And also election winters. So this winter, I was a little concerned, but not like I was 4 years ago or 8 years ago. But yeah, so it was a lot of planning, and it just came out beautiful. And the clients were awesome. They are great people. I consider them my friends. I've gotten 2 referrals from them. And I got a text from her recently, within the last week, saying she gave out my number to someone. So that alone, like working for appreciative clients that they also can accurately express themselves to me. And then we get that communication, and if problems happen, we knock them out right then and there. So I like that, I do a lot of bathrooms. Kitchens I prefer more, because they're usually more accessible. The bathroom might be upstairs or something.
Yeah.
So I like those, but I also like the smaller stuff, like mudrooms, because that's I could be a little more creative, and so yeah, all that type of stuff. I'm doing 3 bathrooms and under one roof right now, and so my designer and my planner, she went really in depth this time with like a schedule for each bathroom, tasks, right? And because normally if we're just tackling one bathroom, I kind of know what's going on, kind of know what each day looks like. Yeah, I might forget something, but we always fix the mistakes. But this one, I'm in one of these, if not all 3 bathrooms, bouncing around day to day.
I was going to say, like all 3 of them.
Yeah, and so on Monday, a not so minor detail got away from me, and I was reminded of it halfway through the day while my waterproofing guy is already buttoned up the walls.
Oh no.
Yeah. And so it was a Monday. What can I say? That type of thing never happens on a Friday.
Yeah,
It's always Monday.
exactly.
And so it was a learning lesson, you know. I should have looked at the schedule. I should have looked at and saw what needed to be done. And so in this instance, we're up in Commerce, and these clients have never hired a contractor before. So it's taken them a little while or it's taken her a little while to figure out how we work, you know. And so that's always interesting. She's a really nice lady. So yeah, it's always different. That's another thing I like is it's always
Something new.
from month to month. I'm in someone's home that maybe I was never in before.
And like you said, it's a pretty intimate process.
It is, because whether it's just myself and the homeowner, or if it's myself, say with the demo team, because that's the first day.
Yeah.
It still is intimate because I'm kind of the go-to guy or my planner. So the clients are talking to us. And so we're trying to establish some trust early on, trying to make them feel comfortable, understand expectations, and be clear about what this whole thing is going to look like. You know, I think the earlier we do that, the better off we are. Typically
Setting the expectations, getting clarity.
Yeah. And I've learned to do that early on and tell them what to expect and what I expect. And if anything is bothering anyone, speak up and we can take care of it right then and there, as opposed to at the end of the job, you're like, well, this tire was supposed to be matte and it's gloss or whatever. You know, that's an extreme example, but no one wants a surprise like that. And so, yeah, I think early on you want to establish some trust, because you're in there. It's my profession. It's my professional job, but it's in their personal life. It's in their personal space.
Yep.
So that can worry some people more so than others. But what's cool about us is like we always work with the same people. So I trust all of them, you know. And so the whole trust thing I think is fine. Some people just are a little more apprehensive than others.
How do you and you were talking about we talked about this a little bit the other day, but how do you come in with somebody that you know is apprehensive and kind of break down those walls literally?
Well, I think I can tell that the first time I meet them. So when I go there to do the estimate, I might give them a ballpark. I kind of explain to them what the job's going to look like, you know, all the usual suspects, you know, dumpster in your driveway for a few days, my trailer in your driveway for the whole duration. These guys will be in here, and then my electrician will come in, and my plumber, and blah, blah, blah. I can tell by the questions they ask. And certainly if, you know, when I give them the terms on how we do business, if there's an issue with that, that's kind of a red flag, because I'm not going to change the way I do my terms.
Yeah.
But typically we've gotten good at, you know, pre-qualifying people. For the most part, our clients are pretty awesome. And for the most part, I tell them the price and they're writing a check. You know, I did go on estimate not too long ago where they tried to bully me and they didn't like the terms and they were trying to will their will on how the job was going to, and they were into real estate and they said they knew the builder and all this. I'm like thinking to myself, well, why am I here?
Yeah.
You guys called me.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I could kind of sense that it just wasn't going to be a good fit. I could tell that 15 to 20 minutes into the estimate. And that's fine. You know, I actually don't want to get every job that I do an estimate for.
Yep.
I remember, and this doesn't really happen too much anymore because we've dialed in our bidding process, but I remember losing sleep over 2 nights. Like, okay, here we go. Are they gonna think it's too high? And I sent it out, and within 5 minutes, they're like, yes. And I'm like, no. You know, I can't tell you how many times that happened to me.
Yep.
So to answer your question, I think the trust really isn't so much of an issue. You know, I think early on we were answering the basic questions, and if they think it's a good fit, we think it's a good fit, and they're writing a check, then certainly they must trust me.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, or else they're not going to cut a check.
And that's why even I asked that question, because I think that's your difference, you know, and you're in an industry where there's not necessarily a ton of reputable companies or reputable experiences. They're not taking the approach that you are. And so that's why I like focusing on that, because again, getting people to see like, who is it that you're working with? That's the, you know, what person do you have coming in, and how does that feel versus like, because you're going to have this person in your house for a week.
Right.
Or more, or, you know, like even the multiple amount of days, like if they're making you feel uncomfortable or they're not listening to you, you know, that's tough.
Yeah. And, I can think of a smaller job I did a few months back, and I never met the client, but my designer did. And all I remember her saying was, you know, she was apprehensive. I'll say that. And I went there, and she was totally cool. Like, she completely trusted me. I mean, within 15 minutes, I could tell that whatever she was fearing before was out the window. And to your point, there is some unreputable, they're all over the place.
Yeah. It doesn't matter the industry, but I know
doesn't
specifically
matter the industry.
There's a lot of,
but you just hear about it more with contractors.
Yes.
There's just, people just get tense because one bad story, like you'll hear a bad story will be repeated over and over. You might not hear the good stories, and so.
Yep.
But you're right. It's all industry, and
that's why referrals are such a testimony. Is because it's so much easier to go and tell people, oh, this disaster happened, this company sucked, oh my God, you wouldn't believe it, as opposed to going out and being like, they were amazing, you should check them out.
Yeah, and I don't think it's really a bad thing that it's this kind of a negative connotation attached with some contractors, because when they do meet us and they trust us, then by someone doing a poor job just made my job easier, or made the sales process easier.
Yes.
Not to mention the fact that people are hiring us to fix what a previous contractor did.
Yep.
Yeah. And this just happened not too long ago, where these people invested quite a bit of money into their bathroom, and they were having a leak, and it was a lot of money. And my tile guy, he demoed it, and he said the mistakes that were so basic, it was comical, you know. And now in this instance, they also didn't want to. They were really apprehensive because they were like, "Well, we just spent all this money and got ripped off by someone who said they knew what they were doing."
Yeah.
So that's when we gotta give them facts. Like, well, look, this was the worst waterproofing job we ever see. Whereas we're, you know, our team's not knowledgeable, and there's a difference between, you know, a Schluter waterproof system and then something that you put together from Home Depot where the products may or may not even be waterproof. You know, it's like there's some. So sometimes that people make my job easier
Yeah.
by their screw ups.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because we feel bad for people who got to pay twice.
Yeah.
For something, you know.
That sucks. It sucks. But then almost it has to be is passionate to be able to go and work with people and get those referrals so you can save people from that headache even that first time. Before I started my business, I was in an industry, in the cell phone industry, that the majority of my competition sucked. Like it was a industry that had a really bad name. In fact, they took these MPS studies on the industry, and people in the survey said they'd rather hang out at the airport all day as opposed to going into a cell phone store. Like it was like rated low amongst the things that DMV. Like people would rather go stay in a DMV than go into a cell phone store, because what you'd get is a couple of things. Either you get somebody that didn't care. Like they'd rather be playing video games or, you know, talking to their friends than taking care of you, the customer in front of them. Or you have people that are so commission hungry and they're just trying to rip you off. And so they're like trying to sell you everything, or they're putting things on your bill that you don't even know are going there because they're free for a month. And then when they fall off, and like they're ripping people off. And so people were getting either a horrible experience here because they were trying to rip them off, or a horrible experience because they didn't care. I'm like, this is an opportunity for me. This is an opportunity for me to do the right thing, to take care of people, to listen to what they're saying, to solve their problem. Like when people come in mad, like my goal is to listen to them, let them vent, and then make their day, you know? And when you can do that, you dominate a whole entire industry.
Yeah, that's huge. Seeing that opportunity, you said it. I mean, just seeing it as an opportunity. Because some people would be like, I don't think I want to be involved in this business at all.
Absolutely.
But you saw it as a chance to like do good. And in essence, you would be making a name for yourself.
Yeah.
And in the long haul, that's positivity.
And then think of that story, even when you feel like, oh, that sucks, they paid for this already, but they're now telling a story about the horrible company and then the company that came in and saved their day.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully they're telling that story.
Yeah, hopefully.
And they're not just associating us all under the same umbrella. But yeah, I think that story has a happy ending as far as what their experience was. Yeah,
it's such a difference, and you can tell that you care. You know, and again, you're seeing that experience from the referrals, because that's the best testimony you can get, is when somebody's on the line to have their friends and family work with you, or you know, an acquaintance or whatever, because that's their word. You know. Now, and so to have that, it's you making that difference in the industry. And again, there are some people that are like, oh, you know, I don't get sales and I don't get work because my industry sucks. That's just an excuse.
Yeah, that's all that is. Yeah, and it, you know, you talked about grit. There's a lot of hustle involved. You know, doing things you're uncomfortable with. You know, I quoted Lance Armstrong earlier. Laird Hamilton, his thing is, I do something every day that makes me uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to tell my kids that when they don't want to cut the grass or do something that's pretty easy.
Yeah.
But it's only going to get harder. The things you're asked to do, or the things you have to do. And so
it's funny because we think about like being a kid and like going through school and worrying about what people are going to think and how your peers are going to judge you and all these different things. And like all that, thinking about high school and all that stuff that I stressed about back then, like none of that shit matters, you know, like none of that. There's like real world problems that happen. So enjoy your time now, figure it out, and realize that those people's opinions don't matter.
Oh yeah, 100%. I do try to recollect. I do try to recall at my kids' current ages. I try to remember what that was like for me.
Yeah.
And it's really not relatable because times are so different. But it's not lost on me that their problems are real in their eyes. They're totally real problems.
Oh yeah.
And it was a simpler time when I was a kid, obviously. So it's a whole different host of issues that they got to deal with.
Just social media being a huge one.
Yes. That's a whole different topic, right?
Absolutely. And again, you look at things like social media as being a whole different topic, and like, because there's like, I think anything, if you drink too much water, you'll die. Like the most natural thing for you. If there's like everything in moderation or even how you use it, right? And so social media, everybody can say like it's bad or it's a destruction. But at the same time, going back to what you've said a couple times, we can do anything. We have the resources to anything. You want to learn how to build a home, go on YouTube and watch the videos. And are you going to be good at it? No, you're going to suck and you're going to, you're going to make all the mistakes, but you still have this guide to learn how to figure it out. Social media, we can go on and like this whole podcast, right? Tell our story and gain an audience that we've never had before. And so when you use it the right way, when you use it as a tool, as a resource, because people are our greatest resource. Like, it's, and you've mentioned it several times, the collaborations, CrossFit, how that changes and elevates your game and your competitiveness and your drive and your even like what you can accomplish versus going by yourself.
100%. Yeah, I think, well, I'll make this analogy. Yeah, we have the internet now and YouTube and social media, and I can pretty much get an answer to any question within a few minutes.
Yep.
But when I was a kid, I had to go and get an encyclopedia.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it probably wasn't going to have the answers to questions I had.
Questions you had.
Just basic, like kind of nonsensical stuff that didn't seem very important in my life and in my future back in 1987,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so like, and it's even elevated because then the Google comes along and like we can find answers. Now you have like this AI like ChatGPT and you can find specific answers. Like you can ask things specifically and ask it to respond in a certain type of voice, like and it'll do that for you. It's pretty crazy.
It is. It's a crazy time. And I wonder what it'll be like 5 years from now, the way things are progressing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quickly.
But being able to look at that stuff and how can I utilize this in a good way? Because I think a lot of times we look at, again, that social media and it's a bad thing and you can use it to bully and all kinds of different things. AI, we the first thing that we think about that scares us is it's going to take over the world and all this kind of stuff. And how can you use it though to amplify your business, to, amplify whatever it is that you're doing?
Yes. It seems like there's just an endless amount of potential with that.
Yes.
And I'm not even claiming to be good at it, It's part of the reason I'm sitting across from you.
Yeah.
Because I know my strengths and I know this is one of my weaknesses. I don't have the time to be posting things all the time and stuff. But yeah, it sure beats the yellow pages, right? Think about that.
Yes. I don't know if I shared this with you when we were talking, but like the way when we were kids or teenagers or whatever, the way that I would do business with people, like if I needed my brakes repaired, I'd go to the yellow pages and find the car shop that had the biggest ad. Because to me, that was like, okay, must mean they do good business because they can afford the biggest ad.
Because they have a eighth page ad.
Eighth page.
As opposed to just a little line.
Now I can go on, I can look at their Google reviews, I can see what customers are saying. I can go to their social media and I can, pop open a video and see, check and see what their personality is like.
And that's a huge one.
It's huge. That's what's so fun about something like this is because as entrepreneurs, a lot of times, I think the hardest thing to do if you're either in sales or you're in business is for people to see you as that human. It takes a while in your interactions for them to start to trust you, and maybe out of the gates when you see them in person, people start to trust you a little bit more, but often it takes a while. And if you're calling somebody cold or you're coming into it's not a referral and you're coming into their house for the first time, it's so much harder to build that trust. What social media does and what this platform does in creating video content is you put this stuff out there that people they want to hire you. They go and check out your Facebook page. They see a video like this and they're like, oh, that guy is saying some stuff that I really like. Like I'm gonna call him and check him out. Versus what does that yellow page say to me? Or versus what does that billboard say to me? That billboard just says, This is a dentist. It doesn't say like who this guy is.
Right. A dentist who's spending a lot of money on advertising.
On advertising. Exactly.
No doubt. Yeah. I feel like video specifically, you can get a good feel for someone. You see their eyes. Are they laughing? You can tell if it's unauthentic. Are they genuine? You can kind of tell that a little,
5,000%.
And so that helps, you know.
I loved when we were talking on Friday and just, you're talking about kind of the direction of your business when you're talking about your kids and stuff like that. And I could see like the excitement of, and we talked about this a little bit with like Ryder and stuff like that. And like the excitement of the kids could have a business. They could be plugged in. You get to work with your kids and, kind of teach them something. And if it's not for them, cool. But if it is, wow. And I just seeing that excitement is fun.
It really is. I think, secretly, and I doubt it will happen, but I would like to have all of them work for the business. But yeah, it is exciting to have that one-on-one time all day long, I don't know if I told you, I recently got back into golf after years. And part of the draw was I would go out there with Ryder, and he stuck with me on the cart for 4 hours.
Yes. Yeah.
He can put in his headphone, one earbud or whatever, but he's still going to have to field some questions, and we're still going to have some laughs.
Yep.
And so the work thing it's kind of like that, because at home they're ignoring me a lot of the time. Let's face it.
Yep.
So it is exciting to think of them being involved, or at the very minimum, having some discipline about, or having good work ethic. That was something my dad, he worked hard, and he worked shift work, and he would work all night and come home and try to sleep during the day while me and my brother were making a bunch of racket. And there's no way he was sleeping. Like we were just loud, banging on stuff, and he just did it year after year. I don't ever remember him complaining. I don't think he was making a ton of money. Certainly not in the early days.
Yeah.
But he worked. He knew how to work hard, and if nothing else, I hope my kids learn that from me.
Well, it's cool because you obviously saw it in your dad. And it's not something as we were kids were even thinking about, is he making a ton of money? How you weren't thinking about, is he sleeping at the time? You're making the noise, right? Now, in retrospect, you can sit and think about that because you've lived through those experiences as a dad yourself. But I can tell you, like, even this is like episode 190. I think it's 190 of the podcast, and so many of my guests that have come on have told me stories about learning from their parents. And a lot of people that have been on the show that are entrepreneurs, a lot of them, their parents were either entrepreneurs and they had a successful business, or they had an unsuccessful business. But what they did, whether either or, was they taught their kids that you can go out and create what you want. You can go out and live your own dreams. And so many times I hear people saying, like, I learned this from watching my parents. I learned this from, and I hear it in my son when he's like, I don't know if I really want to work for somebody. I can see myself, like, he's watching both of us own our own business and
Love that.
Have that flexibility and freedom.
Yeah.
To that degree.
I love to hear that, especially when they're young. Their brains are like a sponge, and they have that drive.
Absolutely.
And, just the right amount of naivete, and they're not jaded.
Yes.
And beaten down by the world.
Yes.
That's special.
It's special. It's special. It's I wish I could go back to my younger self and like give myself a pep talk. But at the same time, it's like what we've talked about before. Like, we need to go through those experiences sometimes. Like the experiences we went through, we needed to get there to arrive to where we're at right now, having this conversation.
Yep. That's very true. And I think it's okay. Like it might seem daunting, whether it's someone just starting out in business or whether it's your son. But I think when you break it down on a day-by-day basis and you're just focused on what you need to do today, one day at a time, you work hard and be consistent, do it again tomorrow. Then next thing you know, you strung together months or years or a couple decades. And then it all kind of clicks.
It's the consistency. And I thought of this earlier, and you're talking about the jobs at the beginning that you're struggling with. What does that look like now? Can you remember like some of that stuff that you can do in your sleep now that used to be like so hard?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, I just remember I was so desperate that I would literally consider doing just about anything that was remotely, like if I had the tools,
Yeah.
or somewhat of an understanding, or knew someone who knew how to do it, then yeah, I would take it on, bite off more than I could chew for a long time. And yeah, some of that stuff now, I'm like, why was that even a struggle? That's pretty basic stuff, Bentley. Pretty basic. But yeah, I'd be laying in bed. I'd wake up at like 3 a.m. and be like, oh wait, did I pick up the paintbrush, or is it sitting out on their back deck hard as a rock right now? You know, it's like some basic stuff, and all that happened. You know,
It's like the middle of the night, wide awake, like
3 a.m. Still, that still kind of happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'm that unique. I feel like most people, you know, oh, I forgot to throw in the labor, or I forgot to include the price of waterproofing.
Yep.
You know, 3 a.m. You know, why couldn't it be Monday at 8 a.m.? Well, because Monday at 8 a.m. I'm dealing with all these other pitfalls, you know?
Yep.
So
It's always the 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. when all the things hit you.
100%.
When the life of an entrepreneur, and it's like you said, you're not unique in the sense that I think we're all going through something of that nature.
100%. I know I'm not the only one. It's just, can I go back to sleep? That's the big one. I'm like, all right, I'll figure out the numbers, but can I get back to sleep? You know, it's just it's a 24/7 deal. You know,
What's that like now? And you're talking about like that mentality of I'll take anything versus how does that feel now doing only the jobs that you love to do?
oh, it feels great. It's a lot of freedom. It's less stressful. You know, and there's still stuff that I'll still encounter things where maybe I personally don't have a ton of experience with, but it's okay because now I've got all the pieces in place where I can send a text, ask a question, call my guy, ask, whatever the case may be. But it's less stressful for sure, a little more freedom. Not just the fact of having the leverage of having business booked out for X amount of months. Not only is that make me sleep better at night, but there's less pressure. I can be better at pre-qualifying clients. I can be pickier, you know. So yeah, it's all positive.
It's huge. The worst time to look for clients is when you really need them.
So true.
The worst time to find a significant other is when you really want one, because that desperation is a stinky cologne. You know, like you're desperate and they can smell it.
They can. Yeah. Early on, I remember having this discussion with the other guitar, this was a different band, but I was in Denver and my guitarist was a sales guy. And I was trying to start up a little painting business, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't like selling. I would go around neighborhoods and leave flyers and stuff. And he gave me some advice. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, basically what you just touched on. Like, you gotta, if you even have, if they can even sense that you really, really need the work, then you've lost already.
Yep.
And but that's hard to fake. If you need the work, it's pretty difficult to act like you don't need the work.
It really is.
You know, like how are you going to feed the family?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so I remember that. I remember those times.
How did you get over that hump?
Just it took a long time. It took a long time. And but I think just doing the work and like taking pride in the work and trusting that one thing will lead to another. And then next thing you know, you're busy and selling gets a little easier, and you just stay consistent. But it was a slow haul. For sure.
It takes that. And again, I think it goes back to that patience and that grit and that commitment to seeing it through. It's like that meme that you always see when someone's like digging in the hole and like they're about to turn around and give up, and their wall is that far from the mine of diamonds or whatever, or the gold or whatever is on the other side. And I think that a lot of times people give up right as that wall on that other side. They're about to hit the gold or hit the treasure or whatever. If you keep going, it's that consistency. I think Rob here, that owns the studio, said that the top 5% of podcasts, to be in the top 10% of podcasts, you just have to get past episode 5, because most people quit by like 5. And so if you listen back to my early episodes, I've had people recently come back and be like, man, I was listening to some of those early episodes. You've gotten a lot better.
See, you can laugh about that now.
I can laugh at it. There was this one, I had a guest on for the second time, and she asked me what she should do to prepare. And I was like, I usually just say bring yourself, but since she was a second time guest, I'm like, listen to the last episode and see what's been different, what's different in your growth and stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to take my own advice. I'm going to listen to her episode. And I sat and laughed for the first 9 minutes. I'm like, I didn't record it. It was just literally us talking. I didn't even know we were recording. We were talking about just random conversation for 9 minutes. And then I started the show and I put up the whole entire thing and just uploaded it and didn't even care. And like, it's like 9 minutes, I'm just falling on the floor until I couldn't take it anymore. And then I finally got back to the episode. And the episode itself was good, but just the stuff that, talking about the learning lesson and setting up the GoPro myself and, all that stuff. And
that's just how it is.
It is.
I remember watching an episode of Chip and Joanna Gaines.
Yeah.
And he went back to one of their first homes they ever did. So long before they were on TV. And it was the same kind of thing. He was kind of like, oh my gosh. You could just see it in his face.
Yep.
But with baby steps, you come a long way. You just don't realize it. You don't realize how the growth, what that actually looks like.
Yep. Until you encounter something that makes you realize, wow, I remember back when this happened.
Yes.
Talking about working out, I play basketball at a high level, and I play against the younger guys, and I play against a lot of guys that played college ball, or there's one guy that played this weekend that comes every once in a while that played pro ball overseas, and he's a relatively young guy. And when I first started playing with these guys, I sucked. I played ball, but not with really good players. And so the game was just moving so fast. I was constantly dropping the ball or making a mistake, or I felt like I was unathletic, uncoordinated and stuff like that. But I didn't quit because I wanted to be better. I wanted to keep playing. And so I just committed to working out harder, taking care of my body, working on like mobility stuff as opposed to just lifting. So I was working on mobility stuff. I work out with my son and play basketball a lot and just working on my game. And sometimes you don't see that growth until all of a sudden I'm guarding somebody that used to just burn right past me that now can't score on me.
That's a good feeling.
And it's a great feeling. It's so phenomenal to see those differences. But again, it took 3 years of work to get to where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't have the patience for that.
And that's unfortunate. But yeah, now that you saw that what you're capable of. Like now, when pitfalls present themselves, you have the confidence. Like, well, I made it through this.
Yep. Yep.
I can probably get through that.
You can get through that.
Yeah.
And I think that's with anything, with the working out, with all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's just those lessons again, that if you can get through all this and you apply it and it works out.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Man, Bentley, this has been awesome.
I agree. Thank you.
This has been a fun conversation.
Yeah, this is good.
Good stuff, man. Thanks for coming down. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to the episode coming out.
I do too. I appreciate you having me, Jason.
My pleasure.